Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the PDPreps Podcast, episode 23, it looks like.
23, Michael Jordan.
Jordan episode here. Good one coming up this week. Again, usual plan here, going over a pretty exciting week 7 slate, actually. Definitely one very exciting game. A couple other ones where we definitely learned a lot about, NBL Redwood. NBL Oak play is going to heat up this week. Heading into week 8 of the regular season, kind of crazy to say. I mean, again, it's just the season's flying by. It feels like we've said it every week, but it really is crazy. We have a month left here of the regular season essentially before playoffs start. So we'll get right into it. Again, usual slate of stuff this week, going back over week 7, talking about our rankings this week. Looking ahead to some there's definitely a couple pretty heavyweight games coming up this week. And then, we're heading into the home stretch here. But Kienan, kicking it over to you to get it all started. Game of the week, certainly delivered. Petaluma 56, American Canyon 32. Like we said last week, could Petaluma throw the V-Val into chaos again? Here they come again. The Trojans with a massive statement, surprising, whatever adjective you want to use, win here. But you were there. Tell us about it, man. What happened out there?
Yeah, it was definitely game of the week in the second half. The first half was not game of the week material in terms of it was all Petaluma. But like you said, Gus, I think we've both said it over the weekend countless times. You just said it again, throwing the V-Val into chaos, Petaluma. It's what they've done for the past couple of years. They do it again. Huge statement win at a place that is not easy to play at all. American Canyon has great atmosphere. It's a tough drive to get out there for sure. And that program has come a long way. Come a long way since their inception, obviously. So, huge statement win for Petaluma, 56-32. Not the scoreline anybody predicted. No. That's for darn sure. I know we both got the prediction wrong. We both picked American Canyon. Let's dive right into it here. So Petaluma is now 2-0 in the V-Val. American Canyon falls to 1-1.
That one win too, by the way, was against Vintage. Was that last week? I want to say it was, which kind of put everyone in the V-Val definitely on notice. It was like, oh shoot, AmCam just beat Vintage. I think for like one of the first times like ever in the V-Val. And so then it was like American Canyon, is looking like the team, and then Petaluma says, not so fast, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Not so fast. I do want to correct myself, actually. Just looking at it now, American Canyon's actually 2-1 in the V-Val. They did have the win against Sonoma Valley. Yep. But regardless, Petaluma is above them on the standings of them as they're undefeated here. So I want to talk about the start of the game real quick because it was pretty unconventional. Not normal at all, Gus. I don't know if you've ever seen something like this, but American Canyon, the home team, was given a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for being late to the field.
Their own game, to a home game.
Their own game. So what does Petaluma do? They kick it off first. What do? They do an onside kick and they recover.
Hell yeah.
And that set the tone for the entire first half. The entire first half was just Petaluma. End of the half, the score was 28-6. Gus, you called it last week on last week's episode. Make sure you go back and watch it. But you called it last week. Your key was whether American Canyon's line could stop the Petaluma run, and they could not at all. Petaluma's running backs ran riot. Chase Miller, 13 carries, 123 yards, 3 touchdowns. Big Ed Burnsich, who did not come out at all the entire game except for halftime and in between quarters, was playing on both sides of the ball. He's an absolute workhorse, 24 carries, 125 yards, 2 TDs. And also Asher Stolarczyk, the other part of that 3-headed monster, if you will, in the backfield, 12 carries, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. They just ran riot. They did what Petaluma does, and there was, American Canyon's defensive line cannot stop them even if they tried.
God. Some of these numbers are crazy. Just looking at the stats, Petaluma had 359 rushing yards.
Yeah, I was getting to that too. Yeah.
504 total yards. That's, again, this was by far the worst performance for American Canyon on defense this year. I wonder if that late start probably had something to do with it, honestly.
Maybe, but keep in mind, you brought this up last week. Remember that American Canyon gave up 250 or so yards rushing to Vintage, and that was like
Yeah.
all in the fourth quarter too.
Mm.
So let's get to the second half real quick, because the second half was more game of the week material, and it was exciting.
Yeah.
Mason Harris, American Canyon's quarterback, is one of the most fun players I've ever seen.
Mm.
He is a dynamo, dual threat, just can do it all. He is amazing. Had four total touchdowns in the second half alone. Three passing to um, three passing to one rushing as well. He saved multiple third downs with his legs. Big gain on the legs. Um, and also, I mean, another player to watch here, Webster Burks, who was playing in his first game this season. He's missed the beginning of the season. Playing his first game this season. This dude's only 5'5", but he is wide receiver, cornerback, return man, just an absolute dynamo. Had one reception touchdown. Could have had another if Harris had placed it correctly. Burks was wide open and kind of just was looking around for it, could not find it. But the second half between both teams, 8 of the 12 second half drives between both teams, 8 of those were touchdowns. So it was a very exciting second half, and American Canyon just wouldn't go down, and I think they're going to be fine. I don't think this was a fluke game. I just think it was a bad matchup
Mm.
in terms of schemes and how Petaluma rolls versus how American Canyon rolls. That was obviously the biggest test for that line. So Trevor Hudson knows it. He knows they're going to get better. I do still think that they're going to be a threat in D3. Their offensive line, although they gave up 5 sacks for most part, they did open up the pocket a little bit, so Harris could use his legs when he wanted to.
Yeah.
I still think they're going to be fine in D3. Like last year, they pretty much. I mean, they have all the same personnel that they had last year when they still, did well in those D3 playoffs. So I think they're going to be fine in D3. They're fun to watch. They're such a fun team to watch. They're going to be fine. They're still in the VVAL race. They're not out of the VVAL race by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But one more thing I wanted to talk about before we move on here is the Petaluma defense. Obviously, I said 5 sacks, 3 turnover on downs forced, 1 interception. And then another key back to the offensive side is moving Asher Levy out to wide receiver and having Ryan Landry step in and quarterback, giving
Mm-hmm.
the wideouts that size on the outside. And it was a big factor as well. Ryan Landry played really well as well. So, yeah, I think American Canyon's going to be just fine. I think they're still going to be in a threat in Division 3. They're not out of the VVAL race by any stretch of the imagination. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of things can happen, as we saw last year. They have some big matchups coming up that I think are suitably a little better for them
Yep.
systematically. But American Canyon, they're going to be fine. They're fun to watch, and they got a lot of potential, that team, I'll tell you.
Yeah, no, they should be fun. And I mean, again, I think this was definitely probably a gut check game for them too. I mean, we were pretty high on them kind of coming into this game, looking at their strength of schedule and who they'd beaten and such. They're still going to be in our top 7 rankings, just a little teaser kind of going forward for the rest of the episode. But yeah, I mean, they still have a good resume, even at 4-3, even after this loss. But I want to talk about too, Petaluma. So they've been
Yeah.
such a, I mean, like this is by far, I mean, again, they put up 56 points, 2 weeks ago against, Sonoma Valley as well. Not the caliber of opponent as American Canyon. So to do this against what looked like a really stout defense in American Canyon, I mean, this is the best football game that Petaluma's played all season, I'd say. I mean, just, again, you were there. This is your second time seeing them. Obviously, you saw them in the Rancho Cotati game, kind of, first game of the season. So that lots kind of changed since then. I mean, it's been over a month since that game. So, but Petaluma, I mean, again, last 2 games, 56 points in each game, again, against very different, caliber opponents. But I mean, coming off of this one, like this is a huge, huge win for Petaluma going forward. And I think this is like when Petaluma is at their best, this is what they can be.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure Chris doesn't like allowing 32 points of on defense at least, but when you're putting up 500 yards against a good American Canyon team and just kind of doing whatever you want with your game plan. I mean, this is the thing about Petaluma too. It's like everyone knows what's coming, but it's just up to you to stop it. And when you can't stop it, this is what happens, and this is how good Petaluma can be. So, huge win for Petaluma, but also like you said too, VVAL race is far, far from over. Man, this week coming up, and we'll preview this one. It's not our game of the week, but it could be, honestly, any other week. But Casa Vintage is coming up this week. Next week is Casa American Canyon, and then I think 2 weeks after that is going to be the Egg Bowl, Petaluma, Casa, and then Petaluma finishes the season out against Vintage. So there's still so much to kind of be deciphered in that race, but yeah, I mean, so far we've had already a changing of hands of the first place mantle, and we're only 3 weeks into the into league play. So
bring on the chaos, baby.
Going to be a crazy finish. Going to be a crazy finish for sure. All right, quickly moving on. Couple other, I think we have 3-4 other games that we want to kind of discuss more in depth, and then a couple of quick hitters. Yeah, I mean, like we kind of said at the beginning of the episode, I think there were maybe 3 or 4 kind of big games that jumped out at us, and then a couple others that were, a little more all right, kind of played out as we thought, but still important nonetheless, kind of as we kind of get into get into league play stuff here. But the game that I was over in Sebastopol, catching Rancho Cotati, beating Annalee 31-13. This game was kind of on our radar after last week, after Rancho Cotati lost to Pleasant Valley. Obviously, their star quarterback, Jacob Pruitt, got hurt. He re-aggravated a sprained ankle. He did not play against Annalee, and then neither did Potu Hale, their star running back. Now, it sounds like Hale might miss an extended period of time. He hurt his shoulder. It sounds like a clavicle type injury. I was talking to his parents at the game kind of beforehand. He was in street clothes. He was there, but, obviously not playing. And Pruitt, same thing. Pruitt also did not play. Again, just that sprained ankle. It sounded like, again, though, he's closer to coming back. He probably should be back this week against Windsor. That is our game of the week. You will be out there. And we'll talk about that one a bit later in the pod. But no Pruitt, no Hale. Didn't really matter a whole lot because Gio Ortiz had himself the game of his life. School record, single game, 293 rushing yards on 34 carries, 4 touchdowns. Dude was just magical all night. He had 150 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns at halftime, and he, the rest in the second half. And honestly, every score was pretty clutch. Rancho was up 14-0. To start the game. I believe they scored that second touchdown somewhere early in the second quarter. Annalee answered back, got a touchdown, their first touchdown midway in the second. And then it looked like Rancho had actually scored again. They had a long touchdown pass, but it was called back due to offensive PI just before the half. So only a 1-score game at the break, and also only a 1-score game going into the fourth. It was 21-13, and it's kind of, both teams' offenses kind of started to struggle, or they scored pretty early in the third quarter, and then after that, it was a bit of an offensive struggle on both sides of the ball, multiple punts. But fourth quarter was all Rancho. They held Annalee to only 11 yards of total offense. Annalee only ran 9 plays. They only had 3 possessions, and the last possession was when the game was over. I mean, literally, it was a defensive clinic from Rancho. Rancho gets the ball to open the fourth. They have a 6-minute drive, kind of stalls out a little bit though. But then we got again, pronunciations here. We need to work on our pronunciation. But Cesar Arango Alorza with a 29-yard field goal. I butchered that, I know for sure, but trying to give him some credit where I can. But 29-yard field goal with about 7 minutes left in the fourth makes it a 2-score game. Pretty big score at the time. But then, the Rancho, smells some blood in the water and just kind of, stomps it out. So Xavier Yulee gets a big 4th down sack to get the ball back to end Annalee's next possession, a quick, 4 plays, and that was it. And then the very next play, first play of Rancho's next drive, Ortiz gets his 4th touchdown of the night. Just a quick little 16-yarder. I mean, the guy's not very big. He's pretty small, but man, he was just hiding behind Rancho offensive linemen all day. And I would big credit to Rancho's O-line. They were opening up some massive holes, for him to run through. So, and again, great speed, really quick. He broke quite a few tackles too. Again, not the biggest guy. I know Hale's also not the biggest guy, but just really quick and elusive. And I believe Ortiz is also on the Rancho 4x1 track team as well. And I think that was with Jacob Pruitt and Hale and Ortiz. And I think Sai Vadrawala, who's now playing at Cal, was on that team last year. So just track stars mixed with, football players, and, it's dangerous, when they got, when they can put it all together on the football field. So, I mean, again, shorthanded Rancho, took care of business. Their defense, looked really good. Annalee, I think we were kind of wondering, like, how good I guess they really were coming into this game at 4-1. They had just really beaten down Maria Carrillo, which had also beaten Petaluma, and then Petaluma had killed Annalee. So it was kind of like, what is Annalee? Like, what is Carrillo? What's Petaluma? But yeah, I mean, I think even without their stars, Rancho's kind of secondary players really showed up and played well this week, and it was a big momentum booster for them. And they were all kind of talking about this after the game too. They were saying, like, hey, like, this was a playoff game for us. Like, if we had lost this game, like, it really would have hurt our playoff chances, especially going into their two hardest games of the year, I'd probably say. I mean,
back to back, yeah.
They have Windsor this week, and they have Newman the week after, both at home, thankfully for them, but it's just not easy sledding. So they really needed to get this one, and they got it done. So big win for them. Some bright spots for Annalee. Ben Stewart, really, really solid running back for them. 51 rushing yards, had a rushing touchdown. Vinny Simoncini, 79 rushing yards, had a touchdown, and quarterback Jake Lewis at 200 passing yards with a touchdown. I also learned too that Annalee hasn't had their star wide receiver Logan Mitchell pretty much all year. I don't think he's played once this year. So big piece missing for them. Yeah, but I mean, again, Annalee, this is always kind of be a bit of a growing period or a growing season for them. And I mean, hey, 4 wins is really solid, and I think they still have a pretty good chance to sneak into the. Maybe not even sneak in. I don't think they're in position right now to host a first round game, but they are. I feel like, if they keep kind of playing how they are, yeah, they're the 4th seed right now in Division 5. So they could. I mean, again, they do still have they have Newman coming up this week, and I believe they have Windsor coming up too later in the season. So those are going to be tough ones. But yeah, I mean, Annalee, is looking like a playoff team right now, and I think if they can kind of they can win the games that they should in the league, I think they'll be just fine going forward. So definitely kind of a learning game here, I guess, for Rancho, just going to see what they look like and get some other guys to step up. And yeah, they took care of business, like they should, and big challenge this week. So yeah, anything on that game that you wanted to add, Keenan, before we kind of keep going on?
No, not really. It was actually just want to correct you real quick because I'll know I'll hear about it, but it's actually Giovanni Martinez who's on that.
Gio Martinez, that's who it is.
Who's on that 4x1 team, not Gio Ortiz.
They have two Gios. It's Gio Ortiz and it's Gio Martinez. So
I know. I totally get it. Anyway, yeah. I mean, that's just insane. Like, I don't know what else to say. That's
293. I mean, I think Cy even tweeted about it. He's like
34 carries. Dude,
video game numbers here. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, 34 carries too. That's crazy. It must have been absolutely gassed. But yeah, good one for Rancho. Obviously, especially needing some momentum getting after that Pleasant Valley loss, coming into these 2 games that we're going to talk about obviously later on. Another one we wanted to check out, Ukiah 42, Maria Carrillo. Gus, I don't know.
14. You didn't put
14. Excuse me. 42. Ukiah 42, Maria Carrillo 14. Excuse me. I'm just so baffled by the score because I don't think anybody expected the score in this one. But it was a tight game early on, 7-6. Maria Carrillo led at the half. It was 14-14, tied after 3, and then Ukiah just turned on the Jets in the 4th quarter, scored 28 straight points, and just put the game on ice. This is a huge game for NBL Redwood standings as well. This was monumental, I would say, because last week, we were talking about that echelon, who's on which level, who's up here, who's here,
yep.
Who's here. This pretty much settles it. This was
a game to really find out who was going to be the real secondary competitor or contender for this, for the NBL Redwood, with St. Vincent. So I think we have our answer now.
100%. Jackson Page, big 6'5" wide receiver. He had a great game, 9 receptions, 177 yards, 3 touchdowns. Can't ask for anything more. Bo David. We've been talking about Bo David for a couple weeks now. I know he didn't play his best against Windsor, but that caliber opponent is completely different. But Bo
Sophomore
David is
quarterback, JV
sophomore.
call up, huge spot for him to step up and perform.
Huge spot, 26 of 35, 285 for 4 touchdowns. Omari Phillips-Porter, my man OPP, had 2 picks in the fourth quarter. Shea Parrish has been lights out in that running back role since Emery Mathis went down. 2 rushing TDs in the fourth quarter. Maria Carrillo, their defense actually did play really well, Gus. So it's 6 sacks. But some of those offensive miscues on the other side of the ball really hurt them. But like you said, Ukiah, man, well, we're going to talk a little spoiler, but we're going to talk about this in a couple weeks when Ukiah comes down to St. Vincent. But mark your calendars for that one, because that's going to be, the fireworks are going to go off in that one.
Yeah, like you kind of said too, this was definitely this is actually a very close game for 3 quarters, and then floodgates kind of open in the fourth. But yeah, really kind of the play that kind of was the first crack in the dam was Ukiah got a 4th down. They got a 4th down conversion to open the fourth, and connection over to Jackson Page, and he went on to score, and that was kind of the beginning of the unraveling, I guess, there for Carrillo. But yeah, Ukiah last couple of weeks, again, they've bounced back. They had some tough couple of games there, early in the season. Obviously, they had the couple of players, they had Parrish and also Zach Martinez, who's a good player for them. Those guys were suspended after the Montgomery game. They had a little scuffle up, suspended 3 games for fighting. So after they've come back, outside of the Windsor loss, and that's a very, very quality team, obviously, in Windsor, but 49-35 winners over St. Bernard's last week or 2 weeks ago, 42-14 over Carrillo this week. And I love my Greyhounds, but they're gonna put up some points against Healdsburg this week. So Ukiah definitely maybe with a kind of get everyone involved kind of game going into St. Vincent in a couple week after this. So but yeah, Ukiah is really kind of starting to click right now. Even their losses too. The 3 teams that they've lost to, Dublin, Casa Grande, and Windsor, I believe, have a combined record of 13-5-1. All 3 of those are going to be playoff teams.
Believe it or not, that helps the case, I guess.
It does. Really, it's one of these things where we don't really quite know how to handicap or who's really good or not. I think until about the midway point, and then even I think now it's starting to become really clear, kind of all right, who's elite, who's not. Who maybe has some spots that they kind of have to fill in. Who's again, who had easier games, who had harder games, who's peaking at the right time. And so I think Ukiah is, looking at kind of their resume right now after 7 weeks, they're looking pretty good. At the moment, they're the number 7 seed in the Division III playoffs, which, if that holds, would create for a very, very fun first round NCS Division III matchup, because Cardinal Newman is the number 2 seed. Obviously, Paul Cronin, Ukiah's head coach, coached at Newman for 20 years, won 2 state titles there, or 1 or 2, forget how many, 2 state titles, that's what it was. Anyway, so that would be a thrilling first round matchup for us as far as media goes, because I think that game would be sold out the wazoo. Obviously, Paul was supposed to play against his Newman 2 years ago, when he was at Windsor, and then that game got called off because of COVID, and so this would be a pretty fun matchup if that does hold. Obviously, a long way to go, but yeah, Ukiah is looking like a playoff team, and again, I think that St. Vincent game October 21st is going to be probably the league championship game, I'd say. Not to count out Maria Carrillo and Piner, but I think after this week, it's pretty clear that those 2 teams are probably just an echelon below, I think, Ukiah and St. Vincent. So stay tuned. I think Ukiah is peaking at the right time, and that St. Vincent game is going to be a battle. So we'll see how that goes. But speaking of St. Vincent, switching gears real quick, but you were actually out there Saturday, double duty for you, man. It was funny when you wanted to go cover this one, because I was like, it's gonna be 95 degrees, hot on that turf, but yeah, St. Vincent came out on top 54-7. There is something about playing out there on Saturday mornings where I don't think some other teams are really prepared for that for most of the time, because it is tough.
Absolutely not.
No.
So you were close. It was actually 92 degrees at kickoff, but the turf was probably 110.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They need to get one of those like giant thermometers that they have like in like
yeah.
Miami for those football games.
No, honestly. It was yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And the Heat definitely took its toll. I mean, it was one of the sloppiest first halves of football I've ever seen,
Yeah.
to say the least. I mean, just running it down here before I run into it, but like Piner punt, St. Vincent touchdown, Piner fumble, St. Vincent touchdown, Piner punt, St. Vincent fumble, Piner turnover on downs, punt, 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 and then
Oh.
finally towards the end of that first half, things started picking up. But um, 12-6 after one. Like I said, that sloppy first half before the Mustangs went on a 15-0 second half run. Their defense shut out Pioneer the remaining 3 quarters. Their defense came up with 3 interceptions. Frankie Monticello had a pick 6. So good on him. Frankie Monticello. Malcolm Royks had an interception. Nico Antonini had a good had an interception result. Antonini also had two TDs, 2 reception TDs. 8 total sacks for that Mustang defense. 4 of them from Robert Rooks, who is just, I mean, he's just a beast. He's a stud to lead that defensive line. Complete game from Gabe Casanovas, I would say. 11-20, sophomore quarterback, another sophomore quarterback, 11-21, 155 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception passing. Huh?
No, sorry, the way you said that. 4 touchdowns.
Sorry. 4 touchdowns and 1 interception passing. 3 rushes, 23 yards, and 1 touchdown rushing. But a huge stat line here, and I know you'll love this, Gus, because you tweeted about it. Mason Catarelli, 16 rushes, 230 yards, and 2 touchdowns rushing. And that's like from the backup quarterback. That was in the backup quarterback role too, because they took Casanovas out and let Catarelli get some reps in at quarterback, which he just took it and ran. So huge game there from Catarelli. But yeah, St. Vincent made a statement. They're still the defending champs of the NBL Redwood, and it's going to stay that way until otherwise. But yep, St. Vincent, cream of the crops. Nothing really changed, and yeah, that's all.
Yeah, we said 54-7 serve. It was actually 54-6 was the final score actually. I realized that after you were saying 12-6 after one. So 54-6 was the final. Yeah, I mean, again, St. Vincent definitely has kind of rounded back into form after that uncharacteristic loss against Montgomery. 2 very quality wins. Beating Fortuna on the road 2 weeks ago, and then again this just kind of beat down over Piner this week. Two very very big tests that are coming up the next couple of weeks. They're in the road for their for kind of a mid-season non-league battle against St. Bernard's this week. Obviously St. Bernard's and Ukiah played 2 weeks ago. Ukiah won 49-35, but that'll be a really kind of good benchmark game to see kind of where both these teams stack up. St. Bernard's obviously still one of the best teams in Division 5 of the North Coast section. St. Vincent, one of the top teams in Division 6. So kind of a fun clash there. And again, between 2 coaches who also know each other pretty well. I think it's Matt Tomlin up at St. Bernard's and Trent Herzog at St. Vincent are pretty good friends. So, but yeah, then after St. Bernard's, Ukiah comes to town again for that October 21st, pretty much league championship game. So some tough games coming up for St. Vincent. I know that, and then again, you mentioned Catarelli, huge shot in the arm for them kind of going forward. Cloverdale transfer, we've talked about him quite a bit, but really talented kid. And we had some questions too about like how is that going to work, because he was quarterback last year for Cloverdale, but St. Vincent already has got Casanovas, and so it kind of looks like that they're going to slide Catarelli in as a running back. And I mean, he has 350 yards in his first 2 games, 3 touchdowns.
55, yeah, I want to say. Yeah.
I mean, again, against against a pretty quality team in Fortuna, and then again, maybe not as strong a team in Piner, but still, I mean, great start for him and a huge addition for them kind of coming in here to the home stretch with some really tough games coming up. So St. Vincent 5-1, still rolling. Some big weeks coming up for them. Last couple of games, I think we have 4 other games that we kind of want to touch on, and then we'll get into our rankings and other stuff. But not too much time, I think, on these next 2. I mean, just kind of, some good teams taking care of business. Colonel Newman, our top-ranked team, stays undefeated, 6-0. 54-7 winners over Montgomery. Not really much of a game. Wasn't really expecting much of one. But, some big numbers being put up by Zach Homan again, 249 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. Madi Kamara got a couple scores on the ground. But yeah, and then Newman's D, 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions. They're having a, again, that defense is just kind of super scary right now. Looking across the board, and Monty only rushed for 11 yards, which is crazy. Especially after what they had done a couple weeks ago too against St. Vincent. So, again, and then also, Montgomery head coach Vertus Patton had a very similar quote to what Dylan Leach said after Vintage had played them.
It was almost identical.
It was literally almost identical. It was pretty crazy. That's why I screenshotted it and posted it, because I was like, I feel like I've seen this quote before. But yeah, Patton was talking about how good Newman's line is on, offensive and defense. He's like, this is like a junior college line. Like, this is like, it's like no line I've ever seen before. That's almost exactly what Dylan Leach, Vintage's head coach said, whatever, after week 2. So that Newman line, man, that is going to be, I think as we kind of get into some of these bigger matchups here in the NBL, obviously Rancho and then Windsor. I'm really curious to see kind of how those teams will play against a unit like that, because lines are everything in football, especially in high school football. I think, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have a good line, I think it really caps your ceiling. So if this Newman line keeps playing up to its potential, watch out for the Cardinals, which I think, we've been saying all season, but it's looking even more true right now. Especially too, if Zach Homan kind of keeps playing, how he has, he is almost 1,100 rushing yards, and 18 touchdowns so far through 6 games. So the guy is just having a crazy senior season. So you have a back like that, you have a line and defense like that, good things are going to happen. And so far they have for Newman. So, yeah, and then this week too, I think they play at Annalee. I think Newman will be a heavy favorite in that one too. And then week after will be the Rancho Cotati game, and I think that'll be we'll see how much of a test that really is, though, kind of with without Hale and maybe with a little banged up. And I'm sure Newman is hungry to avenge the shutout loss they had last year. I think it was the first time they've been shut out in like years. So I'm sure
or lost to Rancho at home in years.
That too. They had like 20 years. That's too. Yeah. So definitely some storylines kind of going to that one. But yeah, Newman keeps rolling. Anything on that one, or should we just kind of roll through these blowouts?
That defense is absolutely feeding. They're nuts to watch. But yeah, let's just move on to the other team that took care of business. Our number 2 team, Windsor 52, Santa Rosa 13. Full team effort. 6 guys scored TDs. Maximus Farron had a big game. 9 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. 425 total yards of offense for Windsor. Held Santa Rosa to 31 rushing yards. Not as good as holding Montgomery to 11 yards, but close. Windsor on a 4-game win streak. Now 33 points per game average throughout those 4 games in victory. So, 2 teams just doing what they need to do. I know we have some big tests coming up this week. We've already mentioned them. We'll talk about them more later on. But Gus, anything to say about Windsor, or do you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, a couple things. So they've only allowed 27 points over the last 4 games. Obviously, I think the last 2 games, again, against Eureka and Santa Rosa, not the toughest competition. But they shut out Ukiah, 3 weeks ago. That win is looking better. And then again, they handed Dublin a pretty lopsided loss too, about a month ago, which, that is also, looking like a very good win as well. And then even their 2, they're lost in their time. Escalon is still, the number 1 small team in the state. And then Campo Lindo has actually been playing, really good ball. That was the game that they had a tie early in the season. So Campo's 4-1-1. They have a good win over Monte Vista. They have a good win over College Park, good win over, over Benicia. So, again, even those the 2 blemishes, losses, whatever you want to call them. Escalon is 6-1 and Campo's 4-1-1. So, again, I think the last month has been kind of a good chance for Newman for Windsor to kind of like get some of their guys involved. And, I mean, they just have so many weapons, but, you also need that playing time experience, kind of as you get it, later into the season, especially for playoffs. And again, that Newman game, I'm sure, they have circled as well. Definitely good to get some guys some reps. I know a lot of their starters, I think, only played the first half. I mean, I think it was like 40-6 or something like that at half or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it was, like you said, full team effort, six guys scored. Getting everyone involved in a game like this is important. So, and also guys are healthy and rested too for this week against Rancho. So, definitely a big game coming up for that one. So, all right, rolling on another blowout here, but another team that we've been kind of watching like with some interest here. I think the last couple of weeks, definitely the season, but
100%.
Casa Grande 59, Justin Siena 0, season high in points, I believe, for Casa. Again, just rolling the whole way, 35-0 after the first quarter. I mean, that's about all you kind of need to say. So, Dave Mercado, huge game, 182 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. I think that's probably the most for him in a game this season. Zach Herrera had a rushing touchdown, 2 touchdown receptions for Clint Ray, 5 more interceptions for that defense. I mean, we'll talk a bit, we'll kind of preview a little bit more about, Casa playing vintage this week, kind of one of their first big tests of the year. Since, they opened with Newman, obviously, at the start of the year, but haven't played the toughest schedule over the last, month or, whatever since then. But, again, they are doing what good teams should do. And that is kick not as good teams' butts. And so far they've been doing that. Since the Newman game, they gave it 27 points in that game, but 6 points against Berkeley, 12 points against Ukiah, 14 points against Balboa, and then back-to-back shutouts to open league play. And again, last couple of weeks, Napa, Justin Siena, maybe not the best teams, but still, if you're putting up what is 59 plus 30 plus 38? Is that 97? Man, they have a scoring differential of 97-0 here over the last 2 games.
96, but yeah.
97, 38 plus 59.
Oh, 38 plus 59, excuse me.
Which I think now I'm looking back at my analysis piece that I wrote on Saturday, and I realized I did that math wrong. So I think I wrote 87 in that. So we're writers, we're not mathers. So that's I'll fall back on that one. But yeah, Casa just still rolling. Anything on Casa real quick before we get to our last game we're talking about?
No, go ahead with the final one.
All right, last game, but Sonoma Valley, team that we've been high on all season, back in the win column, 50-26 winners over Napa. Big game here for Hudson Giarita, multiple touchdowns, close game at halftime, but Sonoma Valley really kind of turned it on. I think they led 15-14 at the break, and then second half was all them. But wanted to mention too, actually, someone you guys should all give a follow to is our new reporter, Jordan Lattimore. Let me let Keenan in post. You can throw his Twitter handle somewhere on the screen. But Jordan is joining us.
Have to fit him in.
There you go. Jordan is joining us. He's going to be our Napa correspondent, so he'll be covering all things Napa sports. If you're in the Napa community, definitely reach out to him. I think he starts full time here in the next couple of weeks. Just has to kind of get paperwork and background check and all that, good stuff kind of finished, all the good onboarding stuff. So, I think he'll be covering games for us kind of on a week by week basis at this point. But a couple of weeks he'll be joining us as a full time reporter. So, definitely give him a follow if you haven't already. He'll be covering all things Napa. And yeah, had a good one over there and I was at Memorial Stadium too. So Sonoma Valley gets back into the win column in that one. Sonoma Valley, hanging tough. They're 3-4. They've had some tough games, tough losses. They lost to Alhambra by 1. Lopsided loss against Kelseyville, but Healdsburg win, Terra Linda win, and now a win over Napa. And Napa, I think, entered this game like 4-2 or something like that. So solid win for them. And Sonoma Valley is still in position to kind of sneak into a playoff spot over there in Division 5, I think it is for them. So, it is some tough sledding coming up here. Vintage coming up. Sonoma Valley's on bye this week. Vintage the following week. And then against Justin Siena, which also could be a pretty winnable game for them. And then they finish out with Casa, which should be a tough one. So I don't know. I think maybe one more win. I think they probably sneak in. So we'll see. We'll see how everything kind of plays out in D5. But they might be one of those last teams fighting for a spot. So, but yeah, they're sticking tough though for sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Alhambra. They're one play away from being 500 right now too,
Yeah.
and then that was the last second loss. All right, that kind of rounds out our recap from last week. All the games we thought needed some attention there. Let's head on to our week 8 rankings, Gus. We do have some movement. We had a lot of conversations about this week's rankings for sure.
This is a tough one.
Top 2 remain unchanged. Cardinal, Newman, and Windsor stay at 1 and 2. Rancho Cotati moves back up to 3. American Canyon, who was 3 last week, they move all the way down to 6 because they lost to unranked Petaluma at the time. Casa Grande moves to 4. Petaluma jumps all the way up from the unranked on the bubble, wherever they were at. They are now at number 5. American Canyon, like I said, is 6. St. Vincent is at 7 on the bubble. Ukiah, Vintage, and Montgomery. This was very tough, Gus, because Petaluma's loss to Marie Carrillo made this so much harder than it needed to be. Yeah. Because you kind of killed Carrillo and the whole thing. Your big strength of schedule guy. Why don't you kind of talk about?
You always do this. You always do this. You're like, all right.
Hey.
All right, Gus.
I talked to. Hey, I said Petaluma.
I got it. Everyone tweeted me at KO Doherty 22 on Twitter if you're mad.
Maybe we should add Jordan's Twitter in there and then
welcome to the crew, Jordan. Again, that Carrillo loss is just going to be really just kind of sticking or just making all these rankings really hard kind of going forward. But yeah, like you said, Carrillo beats Petaluma by 21, and then Ukiah beats Carrillo by 28. It's just
we don't even know.
We don't even know. Upsets happen. I think that might be one of our bigger upsets of the season. I'd say at this point, maybe Montgomery St. Vincent could be up there too. But I think when it's all said and done, I think we'll look back and be like, wow, Carrillo, kind of housed Petaluma that game, and then we, just kind of seeing how both teams are heading right now. Petaluma is on track for a much better season than Carrillo. So anyway, it is. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of hard to have a team like Ukiah, especially kind of looking at strength of schedule. We've talked about, it's been better for them. I mean, again, Dublin is good, Windsor's good. Casa Grande is good. So they have played a good schedule. I believe they even have now a plus strength of schedule rating on Max Preps and Cal Preps. So Ukiah, but they are 4-3, so that is something to keep in mind. But they have a big one over Carrillo, and Carrillo has a big one over Petaluma. That's just hard to kind of decipher and figure out. Ukiah also has a big one over Montgomery, and Montgomery has a big one over St. Vincent. So it's like everything's just kind of a mess. So I think what we ended at was Petaluma being an unranked team and beating a team like American Canyon, which, we had 3 last week. We thought they were really good. And then Petaluma not only beats them, but beats them very convincingly. 56 points, 500 yards of offense. We've talked about all the numbers, kind of house them, like total domination. And again, we've thought Petaluma has a lot of talent and should be a very good team this year. And I think that win definitely proved that. A big statement win for them. Absolutely. So we're giving Petaluma the nod right now. American Canyon, there's also some debate about, should we put Ukiah up in? Do we drop St. Vincent? Do we drop American Canyon? We thought that dropping American Canyon from 3 out would be a little too drastic. We still think they're good. St. Vincent too. Again, same kind of thing. Not the best strength of schedule, but 5-1 is 5-1. They've beaten some good teams. So anyway, I think that there is, outside of, I think, Newman, Windsor, which are obviously, the top 2 teams in this area. I think there's a lot of parity this year between, 3 through 7, or even 3 through 8, 3 through 9. I think that on any given day, I think a couple weeks ago we talked about how all the bubble teams are pretty even. But now I'm kind of looking at the rest of the field being like, man, maybe like the top like 30% of teams are probably all pretty even themselves. So I don't quite know what to make of all of it. Again, these next 4 weeks of the regular season, I think we'll learn a lot more about kind of standings and where people are, especially kind of as VVAL play really heats up, NBL Oak play is going to heat up, Redwood play heats up. So it's nut crunching time here over the next couple of weeks, and we'll really kind of find out who's made of what. But yeah, I don't know, just me kind of rambling there about how good and about how good our teams are and how much parity we have. But yeah, I don't know if that was too rambly, Keenan, but yeah, those are our rankings for this week. And I wouldn't be, again, shocked. I feel like I say this every week, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see some movement here, or a lot of movement, I'd say over the next couple of weeks, just as league play really heats up too.
I just kind of figured out something, and I don't want to obviously jinx anything, but
Uh-oh.
for the last 3 weeks, whoever we've put at number 3, they lose that week.
Uh-oh. Oh no, sorry, Rancho.
No. So yeah, number 3.
The curse of number 3.
The curse of number 3.
Well, and this also sets it up perfectly for Casa Grande to beat Vintage this week. They go up to number 3, and then they lose to American Canyon the week after.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No. Why?
Oh Lord. Right. Can't wait.
I can't wait. Okay. Anyways, so those are our rankings. Like I said, also, if you want in the comments, leave your own rankings, what you think the rankings should be, so on and so forth. Definitely interact with us. We love hearing you guys as well. All right. So quick note about our records. So records last week, Gus, you were 12-2. I was 11-3. The season records, Gus, you're 60-24. I'm 58-26. I do want to talk about a mishap that happened last week. Normally, because we've now had 2 of these situations, but we decided after the Windsor tie to count that as a no-go. So we just took that out. We didn't count it as a win or a loss. We accidentally counted the Healdsburg tie as a win, so we did fix it in the when the rankings came out on the website and everything. But just a reminder that if teams happen to tie, because apparently that's all they do nowadays, we're counting that as a no go, no win, no loss, no nothing, just blank. Yeah,
I guess unless we pick a tie.
Oh, Jesus. Or is that what we're going to do? We're going to have to start picking ties now?
That'd be pretty funny, actually.
That would be pretty funny. Okay, so, yeah, like I said, Gus, great week, 12-2. I was right behind him, 11-3. You have a 2-game lead over me again. Both got American Canyon wrong. We split Ukiah Murray Korea. I picked Korea. You picked Ukiah. You picked right. We picked split Middletown St. Helena. You got that one right with Middletown. We split Napa Sonoma Valley. I got the Dragons in that one. Anything else? No. Oh, one match.
I knew you're gonna
talk about Stewart Hall.
Yeah.
My alma mater, 58-12, beating LC Allen. I'm sorry, LC Allen, but I have to go with my Knights. It was homecoming, so I had to do it. Go Knights, baby. Okay. Anyways, Gus saw that coming from a mile away. Anyways, let's do our week 8 preview and predictions. Again, we're going to do it like last week, where we kind of touch on some of the bigger games coming up this week, or games that we kind of think are of bigger magnitude than some of the other ones, and then also we're going to predict them as well. So we're going to spend some time on a little bit more time on some others, starting with the game of the week. I will be there in Rohnert Park, Windsor at Rancho Cotati. Obviously, Gus, the start of the big NBL matchups this week, no doubt. Windsor comes in a 16-point favorite. Hale is out. Pruitt should be back and good to go. Rancho's defense has looked very solid, but they are still very young. Their O-line played great last week. Gio Ortiz had a huge game. He's going to be a huge factor as well, especially with Hale out. Windsor on a 4-game win streak with 2 shutouts. And another cool story, Ananias Walker coming back to Rohnert Park for the first time since he's transferred over to Windsor. So that could be an interesting storyline as well. Gus, we said this last week about the VVAL of this is where things get interesting, but now in the NBL Oak, this is where things get interesting.
Yeah, and I do think it's kind of lost a bit of luster. This matchup has. I think this Rancho in general has lost a bit of luster. Just after Hale has is now out, and then Pruitt's kind of banged up, and we'll see kind of where he's at percentage wise, and maybe you can talk with Ant, his dad, a bit. Before the game, but I was talking with him too, before the Annaling game, and he was saying, Jake was walking around, like I guess he was actually in a boot for most of last week, just as kind of a precautionary measure, sprained ankle again. Not too bad, it sounded like, and it sounded like, he took the boot off because he just didn't like wearing it, which I totally understand. But he was walking around last week. He looked fine, but I think it was just more of a precautionary thing to keep him out this week for the big games coming up the next couple of weeks. Didn't necessarily need him against Annalee, obviously. Don't need to kind of I guess risk kind of your top player getting further hurt, with some huge games coming up. So I expect Pruitt to be back. It sounds like he will play. We'll see percentage wise where's he at. I mean, a sprained ankle is a big injury for him. He's a dynamic athlete, does a lot of damage with with his legs and running. And we'll see again if he's limited at all with that. I'm sure he'll be taped up and taking all the precautionary measures, this week to kind of be ready to play, be 100% or as close to that as he can be. So, and then, I think for Windsor, I mean, Windsor is going to be a 2-touchdown favorite. According to CalPreps, computer rankings and predictions, those have been wrong before, obviously. But, they take into account straight the schedule, records, ratings, all this different stuff. It's a whole computer algorithm. And it's, again, not always perfect, but it's, kind of a good metric to kind of see, where teams might stack up. So Windsor will be a favorite. I think that's a pretty acceptable, I think that's a given at this point, but this will be one of their tougher tests, I think, and especially over the last couple of weeks. Like we've said, their last 3 games haven't been against the hardest of opponents. And Rancho definitely is a step up from that. And again, they've been, one of our top 4 teams all season. And again, despite being a little banged up on the offensive side, their defense has been coming along. Again, great game last week. I'm sure they have a lot of confidence going into this one. And I think they know the importance of this one too. I mean, again, a win would, I don't want to say seal them a first round playoff game, but it would go a long way to doing that. And it would also, again, kind of throw the league race into chaos a bit too. So,
that's what we love.
That's what we love, man. And again, Windsor's coming in hot. 33 points of average margin of victory over the last 4 games is 33 points. They've allowed 20 or like 20 something, 30 something points, I think, over the last 4 games. So, they're playing well. But I think that this will be a good test, a good clash. But both of us are going Windsor in this one. I think that again, at the end of the day, I think both these teams. I think Windsor just has too much talent. I mean, again, I think especially with Pruitt, maybe not at 100%. I think Windsor definitely has the advantage in this one.
Yeah, we're both going Windsor. One more cool storyline to kind of point out. This is like almost going to be a year to the day, where Pruitt made his first varsity start last year against Windsor. It was against Windsor last year.
Yeah.
So full circle for Jacob Pruitt a little bit. But yeah, definitely great clash from Rohnert Park. I will be there for that one. Gus, I believe you'll be at this next one that we're going to talk about. We mentioned it a few minutes ago. Obviously, Vintage at Casa Grande, huge VVAL stakes. Time to show time to see what Casa Grande is actually made of. No doubt about it. They've had a decent, not the toughest schedule since opening up with Newman. They've made Newman look a lot better by the way Casa has been playing. Yeah. But beating Ukiah at Ukiah by double digits was big. I mean, I'll let you take this one, but this is a huge VVAL clash.
Yeah, and you had and I don't know if this has been reported yet, or if it's or how much has been out there, but one of the big personnel kind of things to watch for this game and kind of going forward for Casa is their 3-star stud lineman Cody Cornelius has been shut down for the season, or he's going to be out for an extended period of time. He might be back for the playoffs. suffered was it a lower leg injury or something?
It was a foot. It was a like
Foot,
Jones
okay.
fracture in his foot or something like that.
Okay. So huge loss for them. Again, 3-star guy. He's getting looks from a bunch of D1s. Really the anchor on both sides of the ball there for Casa. Huge loss, especially going into this game. Vintage is of course super run heavy. You know, that's pretty much all they do. You know, again, Casa's defense has been I mean, again, up there with Newman's this year as far as the numbers that they're putting up. And honestly, I'd say some of the numbers might be better. I mean, 20 interceptions this year is nuts, through 6 games, no less. I mean, I think they had 10 all of last year, 19 sacks. They have 4 fumble recoveries, and they've only allowed 32 points over the last 5 games. And again, like we've said, not the hardest strength of schedule, but those are some 20 interceptions, nuts at this point of the year. So now again, that might not be the secondary might not be a huge factor this week, because like we said, Vintage loves to run the ball. And again, with Cody out, that might, you know, there might be some gaps opening up there. Cody's a huge guy to replace. So, but yeah, I mean, again, Costa's run defense has been pretty good this year. I mean, they only held Newman to 138 rushing yards in that season opening game. And I think the second most was, that they've allowed was against Balboa, who they beat by 2 scores. Now, Balboa only had 136. So, but yeah, I mean, like you said, this is time to really kind of figure out what Casa is made of. This game is at Casa. I think that will definitely give them an advantage. And again, just kind of looking at common opponent right now. Obviously, Vintage only lost to Newman by 3, and Casa lost by, I think it was 2 scores. So I think you like for traditional logic, you might think Vintage is the favorite here, but I think the way that Casa's been playing the last couple of weeks, they're going to come in with a ton of momentum. They know this is a huge game. They've only beaten Vintage once in VVAL play. That's 2 years ago, and that was the year that they ended up splitting the league title. So I think I'm going with Casa in this one. I mean, Danny Mercado, their junior quarterback has been really consistent this year. Zach Carrera has been a workhorse for them on offense. Again, I think the loss of Cody's big, but they have a lot of dudes. I mean, again, the one thing about Casa, they always have depth. Now maybe not guys of Cody's depth or of Cody's talent, but depth is a huge thing in high school football, especially at this point of the year when injuries are starting to take a hold. So I'm going Casa in this one. Definitely a clash of styles. Casa loves to throw the ball. Vintage loves to run it. I'm gonna say there's gonna be some points in this one. I'm gonna say it'll be maybe like high 20s, maybe low 30s. I don't think this is gonna be a defensive showdown much, and that's just more of a credit to both teams' offenses being pretty good this year. So, but I am going Casa in this one. I think it will be a close game, but I think Casa pulls it out at home.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a fair play too. I think both defenses are going to stop those offense, are going to have trouble stopping those offenses because they're so made for different, systematically the defenses are it's not a good matchup against those offenses for both sides.
No, it's a bad matchup for both teams on both sides of the ball, really.
Yeah, so. It's wild. But okay. But yeah, so like you said, we're both going Casa Grande. I think that is a fair shout to say that it's going to be high scoring. I do think so as well. But yeah, I think Casa Grande at home pulls it out. But like we said, never count out Vintage. So we'll see. All right.
Yeah, I mean, again, last thing on that, but you're right. It's like Vintage. We've thought Vintage has been dead, a couple of years in a row, and it's like the Undertaker meme where they rise out of the grave. So I mean, again, that is the thing. A win for Vintage here, and Vintage is all of a sudden right back into the lead, right back into the league race. So I think Vintage knows that too, and I think they're going to be hungry for that. So I don't expect them to go down quietly, but it should be a great game on Friday night.
Absolutely, I believe you will be there. Okay. St. Vincent at St. Bernard's Eureka. These two teams played twice last year. St. Vincent beat them handily twice last year. They did a home and home series last year. This one's going to be Saturday at 2 p.m. We both have St. Vincent in this one, but I mean, never say never. I mean, St. Bernard's is very, very. They're a very good team. I mean, like you said, Coach Salmon up there has done a great job. White Simone has just broken out into this absolute stud. They're both 5-1. The St. Vincent defense are going to have their hands absolutely full. But like we mentioned before, Mason Catarelli, he is the big mid-season transfer for the Mustangs. He might prove to be key in this one, Gus.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. But going back to the St. Vincent defense having its hands full, St. Bernard's is coming into this game averaging 36 points a game. The fewest points they've scored this season was last week, and they scored 28, and they beat I don't know who Segerstrom is. This looks like a small school from SoCal, but this offense just knows how to put points on the board. And I believe they had, that was someone else who had that was Fortuna I'm thinking of. But again, St. Bernard's hasn't played again the hardest of schedules this year, but they are one of the top teams over in the NCS Division 5. Obviously St. Vincent in Division 6, kind of the same thing. But you mentioned Simone, but he just kind of is we use this kind of cliche analogy, whatever you want to call it, a lot, but the engine that makes that team go. 818 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, and 529 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. I think he had. I was going back and looking at the stats from the Ukiah game. He had almost 300 receiving yards on 10 catches in that Ukiah game. So the guy can do it all on both sides of the ball, and on both sides of offense, but also both sides of the ball too, leading the team in tackles. 10 and in tackles for loss with 10 and with 12.5 sacks. So the guy can do it all. But this is the one thing about football. It is a team game. You need more than one guy. I think St. Vincent has that. They're a deep team this year. They're battle tested. Again, they've responded really well off of that Montgomery loss. And I have to stick by my golden rule, not picking against St. Vincent. So I am picking St. Vincent in this one.
That was established well last year.
Yes, it was.
For sure.
Actually, and it was the St. Bernard's game. I think it was the first time that St. Vincent. Was. So when St. Vincent went up and played St. Bernard's the first time of the year, and I called Trent Herzog after the game, and I was like, how'd you do? He's like, oh, he was giving me smack about them picking against us picking against them. So that is where
you're picking against them, not
me.
Us.
That's
you.
Me. And then I further learned my lesson later that year when they destroyed Montgomery. So I'm sticking to my guns. St. Vincent is the winner in this one, but I think it will be a good game. Again, two very good teams, two very good small school teams. Good kind of mid-late season non-league matchup that I think will make both teams better. But I do think St. Vincent wins it.
Yeah, you were at that St. Vincent Montgomery game last year too, so you saw it firsthand.
Trent came off the field and he was like yelling smack at me when they were up 35-7, being like, can't believe you picked against us, man. Come on. And they're like walking off the field, learn my lesson. So.
All right, last little game we want to touch on here before we get to go through the rest of our predictions here. Montgomery at Santa Rosa Friday 7 p.m. Both going Monty here. Good old crosstown rivalry here, Gus, in Santa Rosa. Monty comes in 6-point favorites. Monty absolutely destroyed Santa Rosa last year, 57-0 with a shutout. But Santa Rosa in the last 7 meetings is winning the series 4-3. This one could be a little interesting. You never know what you're going to get from Montgomery, to be honest with you. But you also never know what you're going to get from Santa Rosa. So
right.
It's just could be a little bit toss up, Gus. But we're both going with Monty.
Yeah, I know Roy's going to like this too. Roy Keegan over there at Santa Rosa. This is some pregame motivation for you, Roy. So last time I think we picked against him, we obviously picked against Santa Rosa last week against Windsor. I don't think that was a big shocker, but the week before when they played Piner, I think we both picked Piner and they made us look pretty silly with that one. So
game of the week too, yeah.
We're taking some credit for that. We picked against Santa Rosa. That was some good pregame motivation. So we're giving y'all a little more for this one. But again, Montgomery, we've seen what they can be at their best. They take care of business, against St. Vincent. Obviously, Newman's very, very good. Windsor's very, very good on the other side against, Santa Rosa. But I think at the end of the day, I think Montgomery just, when they play at their best, I think they're the better team here. So, again, like you mentioned too, 4-3 over the last 7 meetings. Obviously, that's 7 years over meetings. A lot can change, with teams. And I know Santa Rosa will come in fired up. And I will say, I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I would not be surprised if Santa Rosa wins, if Santa Rosa can kind of execute this game plan like it did against, Santa Rosa or against Piner. Sorry. I think that they can definitely win this game. Again, Roy is going to want to control the football, control timing, play good defense, play prevent, not have any big plays, get away, with like, Isaiah Wright or Aiden Pressler or Amasi, Rubikwaka. So they're going to be game plan to stop all of the big game breakers. And I do think that, if they can get some stops and control the ball, I think that Santa Rosa has a very good chance of winning this. But again, we've seen Montgomery play. We've seen them at their best. And I think at their best, they can, definitely win this game. And I think that is what happens on Friday.
Yep. There you go. Okay. So let's go down the rest of our predictions here real quick. All right. Calistoga, 8-man football. Calistoga at California School for the Deaf Thursday, a rare Thursday game, guys, at 6 p.m. This is a test of two pretty established 8-man programs, but California School for the Deaf, they've just been on a tear. We're both going with them over Calistoga.
Yeah, not a whole lot more to say. I mean, California School for the Deaf coming in at 5-1 in this one. And they're looking like one of the better 8-man programs here. In the North Coast section for sure, or in California. Yeah, North Coast section in California for sure. So yeah. I think this will be a very good game. But I do think California School for the Deaf is better, and I think that they win.
All right, next game up, Annalee at Cardinal Newman, Friday, 7 p.m. Both going Newman. They've been rolling. Their defense has been feeding. They've been eating. They've been doing everything. Cardinal Newman in this one by at least a couple scores.
I don't think. Yep, I think we're in agreement here. I'm also looking through all of our predictions. I think we all have the same teams and picking the same this week. So I actually might go back now that we're doing this. I actually might go back.
Here we go.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to pick Santa Rosa over Montgomery. I'm going to go for it. I honestly, as I was talking about it, I kind of talked myself into it, and I was like, hey, you know what? If Santa Rosa can really execute, I think that they have a chance to win. And I do think that I'm gonna flip my pick there. Also, just so that we're not in uniform the entire way, because that's no fun. So I'm switching my Montgomery Santa Rosa pick to Santa Rosa. So no, all right. Back to this one though. Newman Annalee. I don't think it's there's much to say. I think Newman is a heavy favorite for a reason. Newman in that one for sure.
Okay, Gus back with his mid-podcast switcheroonies.
I talked myself into it. I was like, man, I'm making a great case for this. Actually, I should really switch.
Okay, next one up, Maria Carrillo at Pioneer. We're both going with Carrillo here. Pioneer is 0-11. Wow, that's a record. 0-11 versus Carrillo since 2004. Carrillo's secondary is going to be definitely tested in this one. We know obviously how much Pioneer likes to throw the ball, but I just think the Pumas are better and better than Pioneer.
The big I think decisive point here is going to be Carrillo's line, especially their defensive line. If they can get pressure up front on Pioneer sophomore quarterback Kane Prack, I think that they have a good chance at really dominating this game. So. Korea's line, defensive line again played amazing against Petaluma a couple weeks ago, and I think that they have a huge advantage there. And I do think that will be a big deciding factor in this game. So I think Korea definitely wins this game.
Yeah. All right, next game up, Healdsburg at Ukiah, Friday, 7 p.m. Gus, I'm sorry about your Greyhounds, but Ukiah's going to put up a good amount of points on them. We're both going with the Wildcats.
Yeah, no comment, Ukiah.
No comment, Ukiah. Middletown at Cloverdale, Friday at 7:30 p.m. Cloverdale's got the home field advantage, which we all know is very important in the NCL1. However, Middletown is playing some good ball. They just beat St. Helena, and I just think they're a little bit better than Cloverdale at this stage, so I'm going Middletown. You're looking like the same.
Middletown is has probably been the second most impressive team, I'd say, in the NCL1. They have beaten Kelseyville, they have beaten Willits, they've beaten St. Helena, and they only lost to Clear Lake, who's by far the favorite. They've only lost to them by one score. So, Middletown is looking really good. They're playing Bill Fultmer football, legendary coach up there. I think he has like 400, 500 wins, something like that. I mean, he's incredible. Maybe not that many. 500 is a lot, but he's quite a few career wins. Most of them up there with Middletown. So, yeah, Middletown's been great. I think they keep it going. Cloverdale's definitely in a bit of a down year this year, and so I think Middletown takes care of business pretty convincingly.
All right, St. Helena at Clear Lake, Friday, 7:30 p.m. Learned my lesson about picking St. Helena last week. Clear Lake is a Very, very tough draw, as we all know. So we're both going Clear Lake.
Clear Lake is a juggernaut over in, I believe they're still in NCS Division 7. If I really would have liked to see Clear Lake and St. Vincent match up again this year after last year's crazy shootout. But Clear Lake still up, I believe, in Division 7. Yep, and then St. Vincent has made the jump up to Division 6. But Clear Lake is just phenomenal this year. They outscoring teams 307 to 47. Through 6 games. I mean, they have they have 2 shutouts. They have 3 games where they've allowed only 1 touchdown. I mean, their defense is amazing. Their offense is incredible. I mean, they put up 42, 47, 59, 34, 66, 59 points in games this season. So they are a juggernaut. Very excited to kind of see how again, I think that they have a very good chance to run the table over there in the NCL one and probably have a very deep run in playoffs again. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if they, to see them make it back to a NorCal bowl game and maybe win a state title this year, regional title. We'll see. I mean, they're playing great. So, I think that they will continue to play great this week against St. Helena, especially St. Helena having to go up to Clear Lake, always a hard place to play. So Clear Lake keeps rolling this week.
Yep. All right. Next game up, Napa at American Canyon, Friday at 7 p.m. It's been a tough couple of weeks for Napa, and it doesn't get any easier. American Canyon coming to town. American Canyon's going to be pretty upset after losing at home. Homecoming, by the way, to Petaluma. American Canyon's going to win. I don't think Napa upsets them, at least this year anyway. American Canyon with a big bounce back win.
This might have been the last winnable game, I think, on Napa's schedule. Last week I think was, but yeah, I mean, American Canyon this week, Petaluma next week, Vintage the week after. That is a brutal finish this season. So,
oh man,
I am glad that Napa got their wins to open the year. They've had some tough seasons the last couple of years. So good to see them kind of building, going in the right direction, getting some wins. But yeah, American Canyon is just a tier or 2 above, and I think they went handily in this one and bounce back.
Petaluma at Justin Siena Friday, 7 p.m. If we saw what Casa Grande just did to Justin Siena, I feel like Petaluma is going to do something very, very similar. Petaluma in this one, not much to say.
Yeah, I think you just about covered it. Yeah, Petaluma. Yeah, well, I will say, I think Petaluma does win this. I think they win it pretty convincingly, but maybe a potential emotional letdown spot. I mean, you get up so high for that, for that American Canyon game, and maybe you have a not as good team coming in the week after, and maybe you kind of relax, lose focus. So if Petaluma can avoid that, I think they win by a lot, but it'd be a letdown spot. You never know.
Very, very, very well could be. Okay, let's keep going, rounding it out with some 8-man football. Going back to 8-man football, LC Allen at Potter Valley Friday at 6 p.m. We're both going Potter Valley in this one. I really, really want the Lobos. I really want LC Allen to get that first win. It's not going to happen this week. Again, we kind of touched on this last week, Gus, about not too sure why LC Allen chose the toughest division to start their 8-man football campaign in, but Potter Valley in this one.
Yeah, I think this actually could be a pretty winnable game for LC. Or I don't think that they have. Again, they have Tamales, South Fork, and Calistoga to finish it out, and I think that out of all of those games, this is going to be actually a very winnable game for them. I wouldn't be shocked if they win, but just kind of looking at their results just this season. I mean, they finally scored more than a touchdown last week. Against Stuart Hall, they got your Knights allowed a season high in points from the Lobos there last week. So, maybe they're kind of figuring it out. But again, this was always going to be kind of a growing, building year for LC Allen, and Potter Valley again has had a pretty established 8-man program for the last couple of years. So I think that they do win this one. But I'm not ruling LC out. I'll just say that.
All right, finishing it off with I saw that little shot there, Gus, about my Knights. It's not.
No, they're not that good, Keenan. Come on.
No, get out of here. Stop it. All right, we've been talking about your damn Greyhounds all damn year. I'm allowed to talk about my Knights when they come up. All right, Anderson Valley at Roseland University Prep, Saturday noon game, matinee. Roseland University Prep, man, they've taken that momentum from last year and they've just ran with it this year. They get another win on the board this week. We're both going RUP.
Yeah, man, they're exciting. They're fun to watch. Yeah, took good care of business last week against John Sweat. And I think they keep it rolling this week. Yeah, I mean they've been kind of one of the surprises of the year. I mean they actually had a lot of kids transfer out after last year, go to different schools, play to play 11-man football. Um, and they just kind of reloaded and like you said, kept the momentum up from last year. So I think they keep rolling here, beat Anderson Valley, and then man, they might have a good chance to win out. I'll be honest. I mean, Cornerstone Christian's going to be a tough one, kind of towards the end of the season, but actually maybe even not. So we'll see. I mean, Roseland University Prep could be hosting a first round playoff game. That would be super fun. So, but
That
yeah,
would be great.
I think they win again this week.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, that wraps up our football coverage for this episode. Couple other housekeeping items I want to take care of. Huge volleyball matchup tonight in the NBL Oak. Cardinal Newman takes on Maria Carrillo. Cardinal Newman is 5-1 in league. Maria Carrillo is right behind him at 4-2. So this is pretty monumental for NBL Oak play. That is tonight at Newman. And then, of course, everyone is going to want to circle their calendars if you haven't already. Next Thursday, the 19th, that is the second clash between Windsor and Cardinal Newman. Windsor swept them at their place. Gus, you were there for that one. That was
Yeah, that's right.
pretty amazing sweep. So, yeah, volleyball season coming under the wire as well. Not pretty interesting for sure. As far as VVAL standings go for volleyball, got some decent ones today. Napa at Vintage, Justin Siena at Casa Grande. That is a pretty big one. And then Petaluma rematches American Canyon tonight as well. That starts at 6 p.m. That's at American Canyon. Keep in mind that when they played earlier this season, they went to 5 sets. I was there. That was a super entertaining game. But Petaluma's still hanging around. American Canyon, they're 8-2. They're Justin Siena's leading the pack, 9-1 in league. American Canyon right behind them at 8-2, followed by Vintage at 7-3, and Petaluma 6-4. So a couple games left to go. So definitely still could climb back into that top 3. Petaluma can, American Canyon could still take the title from a very powerful Justin Siena squad. So who knows? But yeah, that's how we're looking on the volleyball front. Gus, anything on your end?
Well, quick couple notes about volleyball too. Newman did beat Carrillo 3-1 in their first matchup. That game was at Carrillo, and this game is going to be at Newman. So I think Newman should have a pretty good advantage in this one. But yeah, I mean, again, like you said too, that second Newman Windsor matchup is going to be electric. Crazy that was only like a week ago, or that I covered that game. Feels like it was longer, but yeah, I mean, Windsor made pretty quick work of Newman. They beat him 3-0. Really great environment, really packed student sections for both sides. Yeah, I mean, lots of chanting going back and forth. But yeah, I mean, Windsor, there was a bit of a flurry from Newman, kind of made it close in the first set, but then Windsor kind of closed him out there, took care of business in the second set, and then third set was all Windsor. So, I mean, Windsor has been the class of the area so far. I mean, I think they're still ranked top 12. I think, in the northern region, they've won a couple tournaments. A couple weeks ago, actually, they lost to Ukiah in a tournament, which was kind of surprising. But then since then, they've really, it was kind of one of those like get right losses. It kind of snaps you back, refocuses you, and they've been really solid ever since. So, yeah, kind of exciting, but I do think it is going to be, feeling like a broken record here, but I do think it is going to be Newman Windsor at the end of the year again for the league title. Newman has to, of course, win out until then, and then even beating Windsor, I think it would force a share, and then it goes to a tiebreaker or something. So we'll have to dig into that if we get to that point. But yeah, exciting over there. And then again, I think Ukiah is just kind of rolling over in the NBL Redwood. I mean, I think they're kind of the best team over there, and it's sticking true to that at this point. But yeah, those are my last notes kind of on volleyball, but couple running notes. And again, we're recording this on
Oh yeah. Hold up. But before you get to running, I did want to talk about Ukiah real quick because the NBL Redwood is shaping up to be pretty interesting as well. Ukiah 6-0 in league. Rancho Cotati right behind him at 5-1, and their second matchup, Gus, the last game of the season. So keep that in mind as well. That could be interesting to follow up with as well. Sorry, go ahead with your running notes.
Yeah, so last week, Clovis invite, one of the bigger invites in the air, or in the state. A lot of the top runners from all over California attend that. Montgomery, of course, was there. Maria Correa was there. Hannah Thompson, of course, ran, led the field of local runners, fifth place finish. Yeah, I mean, she has won the race before, but in lower divisions, I believe it was. I mean, maybe don't quote me on that. I mean, she's won and performed so well at so many invitationals. It's kind of hard to keep track sometimes, but she's having an amazing career. And I will say, really excited to kind of to get out this week and check out a local meet. Montgomery and Maria Correa, who are the two top teams in the area, especially on the girls' side. The boys' side is a little more of Correa is a little more dominant in that regard, but the girls' side really evenly matched. Montgomery has the three top runners in the area, I'd say, with Thompson, Celia Kittlestrom, and Amory Lacefield. They are all juniors. They're going to be coming back next year and be even better. Carrillo has a number of good runners as well. Probably a little more depth, but they do have a very, very good, promising freshman, Ashlyn Mallon, who you might recognize that last name, but that is the daughter of Julia Stamps Mallon, who was, of course, a local legend around here. And so she's going over at Carrillo now, starting her prep career. She had a pretty good run over at Clovis as well, but wasn't really. But I think she finished fourth behind Thompson, Sela and Amory as well. So, but this should be a very exciting race. I know that they're all friends. They all race together. They all practice together too, during the regular season. So Spring Lake Wednesday afternoon, I'll be out there, dual meet. Also, I believe these two teams are also undefeated in league play right now too. So this is going to be a pretty cool clash between two of the top cross country teams. So we are recording this on Tuesday. It's about 2:00 right now, October 10th. So not sure when this will be out, but if you see it before then and you like cross country, definitely be sure to go check that one out, and I'll of course have coverage from that as well. So yeah, I think that's what we got this week. Again, football coverage. You're going to be over at Game of the Week, Windsor Rancho. I'll be at Casa Vintage. I believe we'll have some coverage of Santa Rosa Montgomery as well. And then I'm not quite sure, from there, but yeah, it should be a fun week. And I mean, just looking outside the window right now, it is really feeling like fall here. So leaves are all changing colors, starting to rain, get cold, get chilly. So
especially after a 90+ weekend too. That was
pretty wild. I know it's like 30-degree, 30-degree temperature, swinging like 2 days. So fall is definitely here. Summer is over if it wasn't already. So yeah, we are in the thick of it now, Keenan. So coming out of the wire here too. So it should be a fun
Get it done.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you so much for watching, however you're consuming this content. We really appreciate all the feedback we've gotten from this. We've gotten a lot of people come up to us saying we like the podcast. It's almost like we're little celebrities. Just kidding. But we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on next week's episode.
Yep. Thanks everyone for watching.